everyone, my name is Rebecca and I'm 17 years old. Tell me, have you ever heard about people who call themselves child-free? They don't like kids and they don't want to have them. There's nothing wrong with that, it's just their choice. They devote lives to careers and self-development. You've got to agree, those are very interesting life plans. You may ask how I know so much about it. Well, I used to share those views as well. But then something happened and made me change my mind. Subscribe to the channel and I will tell you the story that may change your life too. I have a boyfriend called Buddy. We have been friends for 5 years and we are serious. He's known my parents for a long time and they trust him as if he were their own son. Even my strict father found a common language with him and eventually began to reconsider him the second man in our family. My dad is a military man and often goes on long business trips. He would tell my boyfriend before leaving, "Buddy, I'm leaving you in charge. Look after our girls." And Buddy did not let him down. He helped my mother and me and fix things if anything broke in the house. Long story short, being with him made me very happy. We understood each other perfectly and hardly ever argued. The only thing we disagreed about was children. I didn't like them. They seemed like little screaming monsters to me. But Buddy was good with kids. They adored him. Sometimes we would walk by children on a playground and I would grumble. "Silly pipsqueaks, why are they always shouting and running around?" Buddy would smile and say that we had all been like that once, and there was nothing wrong with that they were cute and funny. "When we get married, we'll have so many little angels," he would say. Ugh, I couldn't bear to listen to that, and I told him that would never happen. We would become successful and live only for ourselves. But Buddy couldn't imagine his life without children. That's why we started to argue and sometimes even had serious falling outs. But only for a couple of hours because we couldn't hold grudges against each other for long. But one day, everything changed. My mom and I were at home. I was doing my homework and Mom was cooking dinner. Suddenly, Buddy came running. He looked very excited and happy. Right from the doorway, he shouted that he had great news. What could it be? He said that he would soon have a little sister. Just a few minutes before that, his parents had told him the news. Mom immediately rushed to congratulate him, but I didn't know what to do. On the one hand, I didn't share his joy. On the other, he was my boyfriend, so of course I congratulated him and hugged him. And then my mom said we were going to have a celebratory dinner that evening. For the next few months, Buddy and I talked about nothing but the future addition to his family. He told me what kind of crib they had bought for his sister, what toys he'd chosen himself, and how he'd redecorated the baby's future home. Ugh, it was so exhausting, but I made myself look interested and listened to my boyfriend. After Buddy's little sister was born, I lost my boyfriend completely. He spent his days helping his mother and caring for the baby. I saw very little of him, and that, to be honest, annoyed me. He constantly had to run to the store to get diapers or baby food, and spent the rest of the time taking on household chores his mother could no longer handle on her own. I told Buddy how alone that made me feel, but he said he couldn't stop helping his mom, and besides, he liked to spend time with his little sister. After a while, I grew tired of it all. I couldn't forgive him for choosing a screaming baby over me. I decided it was time for us to break up. I once shared those thoughts with my mother, but she took his side and said that he was acting very responsibly and admirably, while I was being stupid and getting hurt over nothing. His little sister will grow up soon and Buddy will have time for you again. Just be patient for a while, said my mom. But I didn't want to wait. I wanted to deal with it all at once. And so one day, when Buddy came by to see me, I gave him a choice. He would either spend time with me or his sister. My boyfriend got angry and said I wasn't being fair. He couldn't choose between two people who were equally important to him, but I said that if he cared about me, he would have chosen me. "We're done, Buddy. You can go get some diapers," I said angrily. He looked upset, but left silently. My mom, who had heard our conversation, said that I was making a big mistake and would soon realize it, but I didn't want to listen to her. I just felt like Buddy had wronged me. I stopped seeing Buddy, immersed myself in my studies, and decided to simply not think about him. However, after a while, something strange began to happen. My mother turned somehow happy and anxious at the same time. I didn't know what it was all about, but she was definitely hiding something from me. She would leave without telling me where she was going, talk to my dad on the phone for a long time, and immediately change the subject when she saw me coming. She spent whole days on online marketplaces, choosing and ordering something. But when I asked her what she was doing, she would just turn off the computer and say it was nothing special. It was all very strange. But one day, I finally found out her secret. That day, as I was cleaning my parents' bedroom, I found a scan under my mother's pillow. Why did my mother keep it there? I held it up to the light, but couldn't make out what was in it. That's when I noticed the words in the corner. My mother's first and last name, and below them was written, "Pregnant, 5 weeks." I was flabbergasted. It turned out that my mother was pregnant, and she was hiding it from me? I immediately rushed to ask her a few questions. When my mom saw the ultrasound in my hands, she immediately realized that I knew everything. She didn't deny it and told me with a smile that she was pregnant, and I would soon have a little brother or sister. It was terrible! Now I was in for that hell! But I was even more interested in why she'd kept the news from me. Mom replied that she knew how I felt about children and had simply been too afraid to tell me about her pregnancy. Well, that was just stupid. After all, when she started showing, I would have guessed everything anyway. "Surprise!" was all my mother had to say. Feeling angry, I went to my room and spent a long time thinking. I imagined what my future was going to be like. Sleepless nights with the screaming baby, running to the store and doing chores for my mom. And I was right. A few months after that, when my mom's stomach grew and it became hard for her to do housework, I had to take on the chores in her place. I didn't have any free time at all. After school, I had to immediately start cooking and cleaning the house. At some point, I finally started to understand my boyfriend. I couldn't even find the time to sit with my friends in a cafe. I had to go shopping a lot, and that was just the beginning. What was going to happen once my little brother was born? I was too scared to think about it. I thought about Buddy more and more and felt like I needed his support. But what was I supposed to do? After how I treated him, I didn't think he'd want to see me at all. Still, I decided to take the risk. So one evening, I went to his house, even though it was very difficult for me. As soon as Buddy opened the door, I saw genuine surprise on his face. I didn't know where to start, so I just said, "Buddy, it seems like I'm going to have a little brother soon." He immediately smiled, hugged me, and pulled me into the house. Once inside, I told him the whole story. I also said I was sorry I had broken up with him and that I missed him very much. He seemed very happy and not at all angry with me. He was a very good guy after all. He took me to the nursery and showed his little sister to me. She looked just like Buddy, except she was tiny. For a second, she even seemed sweet to me. My boyfriend put his arm around my shoulders and said, "Don't worry, I'm an expert on taking care of kids now, and I'll teach you everything you need to know. It's not really that hard." And he really started helping me. He had a lot more free time now, some of which he started to spend with my family once again. We chose a crib and toys for the child and went to the store for them together. Then Buddy redecorated the baby's future room. My mother was very happy that we had such a helper again. Buddy told me all about taking care of babies and shared some life hacks that he'd come up with himself. And then came the day. My mother suddenly felt that she was going into labor. She told me to call Buddy, who immediately brought us to the hospital. We sat in the corridor and waited until the doctor came out and said that everything had gone perfectly and a healthy boy had been born. Strangely enough, I felt genuinely happy at that moment. When I saw my brother, I immediately fell in love with him. He looked so much like me, and I was very glad to babysit him. I was even surprised at how different I felt about things. After all, before a screaming baby would have only made me feel irritated. And now I was rushing to my brother at any time of day or night to check the Pampers or give him a pacifier. A month later, my father came back and finally saw his son. He was very happy that I was helping my mother, and he told Buddy that he had acted like a real man, and that he was very proud of him. Since then, my boyfriend and I have been spending a lot of time together again. Only now, we had 2 adorable babies with us. For some reason, the birth of my brother changed how I felt about kids. And now I look at many things in a new way. Could you take care of a younger sibling? If not, write in the comments down below, and Buddy and I will share a couple of life hacks with you.